So at the end of each quarter, I do an economic update for businesses, past, present, future clients to be able to kind of look at maybe what's upcoming and just kind of plant the seeds of what's happening economically on a bigger picture, because those things obviously affect every business, every organization. And so for the second quarter, one of the things that I've been hearing about for a while, I've done other um, episodes on my Brains and Bulls channel on deflation. And now I'm starting to hear more people talk about it. Not surprisingly. Uh, Probably the first person I heard was David Hunter, who is a does forecasting, and he's been calling for the markets to have a blow off top basically, and then uh, then a immediate reversal. Well, not immediate, but take a little bit of time, but a reversal into a deflationary bust with the markets going down 80% or more. And now Peter Schiff, on the other hand, has been calling for the 80%, 90% drop for over a decade. But he really thought the GFC would be the moment where people would see the uh, bust happen. But because we went into QE and lowered interest rates by virtue of what the Fed did, we were able to kick the can down the road. But I think there's no more road left. And this is one of the reasons why I've been so pessimistic over the last year, calling for a deflationary, or not a deflationary bust, but a bust in the market anyway. And then, whether it plays out in hyperinflation or we get deflation, either one's not good. But I've talked more about the inflationary aspect. So I wanted to devote this quarter to deflation because it seems to be, like I said, picking up steam amongst the economic circles, that this is a possibility. And how did we get here? Well, you had the Fed that's been raising the federal funds rate. You are starting to, at least at the beginning of seeing the consumer confidence start to drop. It hasn't dropped enough yet to really worry about, but I want to give you a few things to kind of take with you that you can watch. They're kind of very broad things because you can really pick through many of these economic indicators, but I think there are three good things that you can watch, and they're readily available. Um, so you know, I, I I think at this juncture, deflation is more than a possibility. Um, you know, Having high interest rates and low consumer confidence, as I mentioned, is kind of the primary drivers of that. And now you have, when I talk about people that are mentioning it, I got this tweet here from Elon Musk. Deflation is coming. He obviously has got lots of businesses. He can see things maybe that we don't. We've seen Cathie Wood talk about commercial real estate is starting to fall apart, where buildings are being sold for 25% of the cost of what they originally were purchased for. You also have people like Danielle DiMartino Booth, who's on a lot of the uh, channels talking about the Fed and those types of things, saying, "Boy, I think we may be in for some deflation." And I want to differentiate, first of all. We want what is called disinflation, which is, with interest rates very high and inflation very high, we want disinflation. We want to see that number come down, and the Federal Reserve has targeted 2%, and that comes with good news. We want seeing those rates come down. Disinflation is where they've over tightened, which I think is David Hunter's the forecaster, contrarian, uh, believes that they have already over tightened, and that this will end badly for the markets, and we'll get this deflation where it'll start as disinflation, as maybe it already has. We're starting to see the inflation rate come down, but will ultimately uh, go too far, and that's the fear, and so that creates this huge pendulum, where it's inflation, and and oh no, now it's deflation. So we'll see what happens, but I think it's always good for businesses to prepare for these types of things. And so let me just briefly talk about some of the uh, deflationary components, the things that make it up. And I'll put a list up here, which is, we have decreased aggregate demand, we have you know excess production capacity, um, we have a decrease in the money supply, we got debt deleveraging, where businesses and households are basically try to prioritize and reduce their debt burden. And the deleveraging process results in decreased spending and lower aggregate demand, or demand in the marketplace for goods and services, because everything else gets kind of pushed out. Instead of buying things, you're out paying down your debt. That has the priority. Then you have the things like global economic imbalances. You have disruptions in international trade, and then that starts protectionist policies, and so these things kind of loop in together. So that is a small portion of the components, really, but there's three things that I think that you can watch, and two of them I've already mentioned. One is high interest rates, which we already have. We have the Fed raising the federal funds rate, and by virtue of them raising the federal funds rate to such a high level that it's sowing the seeds, because as people have to pay more in interest on things, it crowds out other spending that you have in your household or in your business. Higher borrowing costs for whether it's payroll or inventory or whatever it might be. And then the second thing is low consumer confidence. And as I mentioned, we haven't quite hit the levels of low consumer confidence, but if the interest rates continue to go up, you'll see demand get crushed, and the consumer not be so confident about going out and buying things. Now, obviously, that's been helped because the unemployment rate has been very low, and so right at the moment we seem to be kind of treading water, if you will. And then the third thing it came up, and I want to put this graphic up, which is the something that's called Trueflation.com. Now, I got this off of Twitter. I'd never really run into it before, but Trueflation is basically saying, and it goes through, you can go to the website's Trueflation.com, but it has a whole different picture here. It says that we're close to 2% already. And so I think it's just kind of an interesting site to keep track of. And, if the government's reporting 4%, what they're basically saying is their methods are outdated, and you can read about their methodology that they do, and that theirs is more modern, more complete. That it really hasn't updated, the government hasn't updated their methods since 1999. So they're saying that the inflation rate right now is 2.38%. So where we want to start to get concerned, obviously, is when this number starts to get, close to zero or negative, and now we're starting the deflationary process, and we're still holding high federal funds borrowing rates for households, and that drives demand, obviously, for mortgages, for refrigerators, for a lot of things, and then you have those high interest rates then start to crowd out the uh, expenditures for other things. So those are the three things to keep track of. You can find what the interest rates are. Tradingeconomics.com is typically what I use. And it has both the Michigan Consumer Confidence to track that, or you can just Google it. And high interest rates. Also, you can look at what the mortgage rates are. You can look and see what the 10-year yield is, treasury yield, the 30-year, all these things. I usually track the 10-year because it seems to be pretty representative of pretty much where everything stands. And so you want to see the interest rates start to make their way down. So those are the things that make up a deflationary bust. Now, what I want to do now is kind of go through 10 things that you can do. So I'll put the list up here and go through them. The first thing is, review your pricing strategies. You want to kind of stay ahead and at least be matching as prices, deflation means prices are going down, right? So a lot of people won't buy based off of the fact that the price will be lower in next month or 2 months from now. And so that's one thing to track is your pricing strategies. Your second is what kind of value added offerings do they have? Are there things that people would want in their product or service that would be an enhancement? It's almost like an upsell, if you will. That kind of differentiates you from your competitors. The third thing is, staple, cut costs and increase efficiency. Now, I obviously use the word effectiveness because you can be very efficient and not very effective. So I prefer the use of the word being effective, and cutting costs is good to a point. You can't cut your, can't cut your costs and grow, with just a focus on cutting costs. And I obviously have done episodes on that before. The fourth thing is innovate and diversify your product and services offerings, which, you've heard a million episodes on here about innovation, the importance of having an innovation pipeline and doing those things. The fifth is enhancing the customer experience. So that people will be loyal to you. They may pay a little bit more because, hey, I'm not hassled. And we haven't seen much in the way of good customer service here in recent months, and probably since the pandemic started. The sixth thing is managing your debt that you have in your business. You may want to restructure your debt. I talked about that probably even a year ago as we started into the inflation, looking forward to a recession of sorts, and wanting to kind of get your financial house in order. The seventh thing is monitor your market trends that you have and consumer behaviors, because they're going to change as you as you get deflation. Consumer behaviors will change. They'll want to be more thrifty, so you're going to have to be able to have a dynamic environment. I'm an advocate of, giving people on the front line discretion, and so they can give you information rather than hide it from you as market conditions change. And I build that into the systems that I design in business transformations. The eighth thing is to collaborate and seek partnerships. Maybe you find a way to have a strategic alliance, where you have complementary strengths, where maybe a combined offering offers some additional value to a customer. The ninth thing is, focus on marketing and promotion. A lot of people will they'll cut out completely all of their marketing and promotional things, but you got to have some visibility out there and maintain that. A big portion of what I do is try to eliminate marketing costs by having such a good system that people want to interact, that customers want to interact with, that they'll forego. You know, I don't care what you tell me on TV. I've actually experienced good service from this particular organization. And then the other thing is, you know, to stay flexible. You know, as when you have some huge impact of something like deflation, you're going to go back and look at times like the Great Depression, and we may be forced into something like that. You know, in the either by the end of this year or next year. I think it's coming relatively soon now. Whether we're going to get hyperinflation or we're going to get this deflationary bust. But regardless, a lot of the things overlap each other as far as, you know, getting your financial house in order. All these things really are, these 10 things are things that you should already be doing. And one of the things I've been shocked about, and not necessarily shocked, but not surprised, but, you know, there's a lot of fat, especially in technology companies. And I think that was one of the things that Elon Musk found out, is that he went into this company and, you know, had 1,000 people in there, and, you know, by the time he gets done, he's eliminated 80% of them and still can run the company. How is that? It just, you know, excess, you know, quantitative easing, low interest rates, and create this environment of excess, I think, in companies. And rather than trying to keep on top of it day by day, they wait until a crisis happens, and then of course then they've got to you know, cut employees and do those types of things. And now's the time to be doing it. No matter how good you think your market is, it can change, and you got to be prepared for it, and always operate in an atmosphere where you're being effective and therefore using what you need and no more for a particular environment. Now, you know, government has gotten involved with ESG and DEI, and we got CEI now, and all these things. And people think that instead of provisioning good products and services, that these things are going to add value in their company. And now, you know, some CEOs want to be measured on that. Well, if you have a fiduciary responsibility to your shareholders, and that is to make outstanding products and services. And that will always be true as far as businesses go. We start getting these other things, and you're adding costs in, you're adding excess that doesn't create any value for customers or your bottom line. So that's what I wanted to cover in this economic update for the second quarter. And just remember, there is always a better way.